All right, let's talk about something truly radical. We're going to dive into a complete private sector economic operating system. Now, this wasn't dreamed up in Silicon Valley, no. This was designed specifically for Nigeria. And its goal? Well, it's so ambitious it sounds like it's straight out of science fiction, to completely upend the global economic order. So let's just get right to the heart of it, because the central claim here is absolutely staggering. The system's architect argues that if Nigeria adopts this framework first, it won't just improve its economy, it will actually trigger a mass exodus of capital from the United States, allowing Nigeria to literally leapfrog the US and become the world's #1 economic power. I know, it sounds impossible, but stick with me, because the mechanics behind this idea are very specific.
The mind behind all this is Brandon Anthony Bedard, and this quote right here, it really gets to the core of his philosophy. You see, while the system was originally designed with the US in mind, it's meant to be a global tool. This Nigerian adaptation, NUPA-NG, is built on the belief that the best economic solutions shouldn't be constrained by borders.
So the framework is called the National Unity and Prosperity Act, Nigerian Adaptive Framework, or NUPA-NG for short. And its primary mission is to engineer what's called an economic leapfrog event, allowing a nation to completely bypass decades of slow, traditional development and jump right to the front of the line.
So what is this thing really? Well, think of it less like a single policy and more like a complete economic operating system. It's a set of rules, all governed by private contract law, that you can essentially plug into an existing economy. And it's incredibly adaptable. The version for the US is different from Nigeria's, but that core engine stays the same.
Now, to really get the solution, you first have to understand the problem it's trying to fix. The architect calls Nigeria's current situation a trilemma. Basically, 3 massive interlocked crises that just keep feeding each other.
First up, you've got the fiscal crisis. Nigeria's public debt is over 153 trillion naira. I mean, that is just a crushing weight on the nation's future. The incredible claim here is that this framework can get rid of that entire debt without costing taxpayers a single naira.
Second is the social crisis, and it's summed up in one word, japa, which means to flee. It's the heartbreaking brain drain of Nigeria's best and brightest minds leaving the country. And third, you have the economic crisis of federal leakage, where huge amounts of national wealth, like from oil, just get lost, siphoned off before they can ever help the people. These 3 problems create a vicious cycle that's incredibly hard to break.
So how in the world does NUPA plan to solve this trilemma? Well, the engine of the whole system is a completely new way of handling money from commercial land leases. It's called the 80-20 Sovereign Adaptive Waterfall.
Okay, so this is different from the US model. The Nigerian version is super streamlined. When a corporation leases land inside one of these NUPA hubs, the rent money is automatically split. A massive 80% chunk goes directly into a trust for the local community, and the other 20% is immediately put right back into building up the hub's own infrastructure.
What this does is it fundamentally separates rent from taxes. That huge 80% slice is called Abuja proof. It goes straight to the community, never even touching the federal accounts where it could get lost to that leakage we talked about. The other 20%, that's instantly reinvested to build brand new, world-class roads and power grids. And the government, it gets to enjoy a massive surge in tax revenue from all the new business this creates.
And what's really crucial here is that this isn't some government mandate, it's totally voluntary and private sector driven. A company starts by signing something called a Memorandum of Sovereign Understanding. They then put down a refundable deposit for the first right of refusal into a neutral escrow account. But nothing happens until a local community board, which has veto power, gives the green light. Only then does the state sign off on a 99-year land lease. The whole thing is built to be quick, transparent, and business-friendly. And when you put the 2 systems side by side like this, the difference is just night and day. The current system is stuck with borrowing and oil money that's prone to leakage. NUPA-NG is designed to be self-funding and completely bypasses that leakage. And you'll notice one more critical feature here, a built-in firewall designed to protect human jobs from AI and automation.
Now, this job protection idea is maybe one of the most fascinating parts of the entire framework. It's called the anti-japa shield, and it's specifically designed to reverse that brain drain by making Nigerian workers some of the most valuable, economically speaking, in the entire world. The mechanism behind it is called fixed cost arbitrage. So here's how it works. Corporations that operate in these NUPA hubs get an incredible 70% discount on their biggest fixed costs, land and power. But
And this is a big but. That discount is legally tied to one simple condition in their lease agreement. They have to prioritize hiring human workers over deploying robots and AI.
The bottom line is pretty simple. It literally becomes more profitable for a company to hire a person in Nigeria than to buy and run a robot. Now, this doesn't ban AI. AI can still be used to help workers be more productive. What it does is create this powerful market incentive to protect and create human jobs, directly fighting back against that JAPA phenomenon.
Okay, but the big question, the one that's always in the room, is corruption, right? Well, NUPA-NG is designed with multiple layers of protection. We already mentioned those local community boards that have veto power, but each board also has to include a fiduciary expert, an independent auditor whose only job is to watch the money and make sure it goes exactly where it's supposed to. On top of that, every single transaction is published on a public ledger. Total transparency.
So when you put it all together, the 80-20 revenue split, the job firewall, the transparent governance, you can see how all these pieces are designed to create an economic environment that is so powerful, so attractive, that it could actually trigger that massive global power shift we talked about at the beginning.
I mean, think about it. Why would a major U.S. company pack up and move its operations to a NUPA hub in Nigeria? The core argument is that it wouldn't even be a choice. It would be their fiduciary duty. Shareholders would demand that the company move to the location with the lowest costs, the newest infrastructure, and the biggest potential for growth. It would create what the architect calls an offshore stampede.
And here's the terrifying endgame for the United States if Nigeria makes the first move. As all these companies relocate, the U.S. corporate and payroll tax base doesn't just get smaller, it pretty much evaporates. This would create a fiscal black hole so big that the country might not be able to service its national debt, potentially triggering a default and a complete economic collapse.
Now, with stakes that high, this system would have to be unbelievably resilient, right? Well, its designer doesn't just say it's strong. He calls it an unbreakable anti-fragile fortress.
The numbers they claim are just mind-boggling. According to the documents, this economic model was stress-tested by 7 different frontier AIs, which ran over 100 million simulations. They threw everything at it: oil price shocks, currency collapses, you name it. And it came back with a 99.9999% survival rating against catastrophic black swan events.
So, to sum it all up, the system is engineered to be a single, elegant solution to Nigeria's biggest, most interconnected problems. It's designed to clear the debt, bring the talent back home, and stop the financial leakage, all through a voluntary, private sector-led framework.
The architect literally calls this system checkmate for the current global economic order. It is an incredibly bold, provocative claim. But as capital always chases the highest return and people always seek the highest value for their work, you have to ask the question, is the world ready for the entire game to change this fast?